So my workbench isn't just a mess this time, it's a complete catastrophe, but I just had to get this engine on video. This is probably one of the worst engines I've ever seen. So this came off a go-kart I just bought. Kid said that he bought it for like 50 bucks off Craigslist, and he let it sit outside. No muffler. Does have a gas cap, but no muffler on it, just out in the rain. No cover over the airbox. And I just noticed that this lever has been connected straight to the throttle. No governor at all. There's the choke right there. So, you see all that rusty water. So the rusty water got drained out of here and out of the gas tank, which is nice and full of rusty water. And then I just drained some water out of the crankcase with just a little bit of oil in it. And here is the spark plug. We'll focus that. Yep. So the cylinder is full of rusty water. So this engine's probably a lost cause, to be honest, but kicking stuff over. But just for the hell of it, we're going to pop the cylinder head off. We'll spray a bunch of lubricant in it and see if it'll spin, because right now it is locked solid. In fact, the pull cord is broken because, yeah, won't budge. I probably won't ever use this engine for anything, but just for the hell of it, let's pop it apart. Spray some PV Blaster in there, let it soak. Maybe it'll free up. Who knows? That is not what the inside of your engine is supposed to look like. Rusty sludge. Yeah, that's not moving. Huh. And then here's the carburetor, also full of rusty water. I have ways of bringing that back. Okay, so after sitting overnight with a bunch of penetrating fluid in the cylinder, I was able to get the piston free. It turns out that the damage from sitting with water in it actually isn't too bad. You got a little bit of a rough ridge right in there. I don't know if you'll be able to see it. Yeah, you're not going to be able to see it. There's a bit of a rough ridge there, but ultimately not too bad. And it is moving freely now. But now that it's moving, I've noticed more problems. Mainly, there's no crosshatch in this cylinder whatsoever. It's just completely gone. And I guess I shouldn't be surprised because this is what the air filter housing looked like. Yeah, I'm guessing that this was running without a filter for a fairly decent amount of time. And the engine ingested a bunch of dirt and promptly wiped out the cylinder walls. So, while I could put this all back together and probably get it to run, it would just be, it'd be useless. It would run, but it would smoke so much oil, it would burn so much oil and smoke so much that I wouldn't be able to use it for anything. And I do believe that I can fix this to the point where I can use it for something. It's just not going to be for this go-kart. And I've decided that at this point. If you look, yeah, that's the governor delete. Basically, take all the guts out of it, jam a random bolt into the hole, and it's crooked. And you know what? Now that I look at it, that's not even a real threaded bolt. That's like a lag bolt or something. But the other reason is because of this. There's a crooked stud stuck in here. These are the bolts, or the bolt holes for the torque converter, and they are all stripped out. There's only a few threads at the very bottom of these bolt holes, and I just don't feel like dealing with it. So I'm actually going to source another engine for that, but I'm still going to fix this one just because we can, and because then I have an engine for something. Now this doesn't have any thread bolt holes in it for a puller, so I'm going to do this in a kind of old school way, or the no tools way. Find a strong spot. And there it goes. And is the key gonna come out of there? Well, it feels loose. No, that key's stuck in there. Okay. Moving on to the crankcase. So the crankcase is free, but it seems to be stuck. Yeah. Yeah, I kind of expected that. We got some rusty spots on here because I did find water in the crankcase. So let's see. There's the camshaft. How's the camshaft look? Slight rust spot on the camshaft. Compression release seems to be okay. Lifters are alright. Just make sure that's... Yeah, I think it's alright. The only other thing I'm worried about is these do have these ball bearings in them. That sounds a little rough. And I'm concerned because it's possible that they did rust a little bit. I don't know. We'll have to see how much they are. If they aren't too much, we'll probably just put some new ones in. Get the crankshaft bolts out. Set the camshaft aside. Okay, so one of these was kind of not that tight and the other one was really tight. So yeah, somebody didn't use a torque wrench. got some rusty water on there. Not perfect, but not too bad for a small engine. These small engines tend to be quite durable. So, a little bit of roughness on the crank journal. Not the end of the world, especially for something that's been through the ringer like this one has. If I can just get this thing out. So the crankshaft is being hung up because of the rust. There it is. So, crankshaft journals look pretty good. Again, not perfect, but not enough to hurt a small engine. So that's good. Rust doesn't seem too severe, so no concerns about throwing the counterweight off. That will need to be cleaned up though. And there's a mixture of penetrating fluid. See, that bearing sounds smoother to me. Yeah, we'll definitely have to look into bearings. Let's get the piston out and see how the cylinder really looks. Let's try to go the other way. Oh yeah. See, that was the other thing I was concerned with about trying to just get this thing to run, is I knew there was going to be a lot of gunk down there. So that's just all rusty. And then the rings. Yeah, they're moving now, but they would have had all that gunk in there. That wouldn't have been good. Excuse me. I think I'm actually probably going to just clean this up and reuse these rings, because this is going to be a budget engine save. So I'm not going to spend a ton of money on it. So let's see if we can get a view of this. So I'm not sure if that's going to show up, but basically the entire area where the cylinder was riding is just completely worn out, no cross hatching at all. Luckily it doesn't seem to be rust pitted, so that's good. But it does have cross hatching below where the piston was riding, which is what it's supposed to look like, but the rest is gone. And then of course the governor was over here, and the shaft would go through here, but they jammed the bolts in it, so I am going to fix that, hone out the cylinder, get some new gaskets and stuff for it, maybe get some new bearings. We're going to throw it all back together and it should run and hopefully not smoke. Alright, so I've been taking a break from the go-kart engine, and when I say taking a break, I mean I threw all the parts in a bin and shoved it into a corner of the garage. Yeah, but we're back on it now. So since last time what's happened, I tapped out this hole that used to hold the governor shaft, put a bolt in it instead of a crappy screw just jammed in there, and then don't lose the drill. And then did the same thing with the actual shaft that the governor itself spun on, because the shaft, here it is, it was so incredibly loose that just even tapping it slightly with a hammer would make it move, and that's no good. It already worked its way out. We don't want that hitting the flywheel, because in all likelihood it'll either just bend that shaft or it'll break the case. Probably break the case given it's a clone engine. Well, anyway, what we're going to do now is we're going to take care of this cylinder. The cylinder obviously has quite a bit of rust marks in it, and it's pretty badly worn because it was running without an air filter. So what we're going to do to take care of that is we're going to hone it out. Got a 3 stone hone on here. And what we're going to, and this is going to allow me to clean up the bore, knock out the rust, as well as put some crosshatch back in it. So we're going to just put lots of oil on here because we want oil. Oil is good when you're hunting. We do not want dry stones for hunting. Okay, so this isn't going to be a lesson on honing, but I'll show you the process. And do this. Okay. Okay, hose it down with some mineral spirits and see how it looks. Yeah, we still got some buildup in there, so we're just going to keep going, and I'm probably going to skip here because this is going to be very boring to watch. Alright, honing is done. We'll get a light so you can see that. So there's still a little bit of kind of a shadow from where the rust marks were. As long as there's no major pitting or low spots, it'll be fine. For a car this would be an issue, but for a small engine it's not going to hurt anything. The important thing is, like I said, no low spots, and that we have a nice good cross hatch in there to hold the oil, which I do. So that's going to be way better than it was. I did remove the low oil sensor. It had a bunch of metal flakes in it from some other work I did, and probably from some other things. And I figure I'm never going to use it anyway, so I just cut the wire, pulled it out, make things easier on myself. Now I have decided I'm going to go ahead and throw some new bearings in here, and I'll show you the old bearing. You see that? That just sounds horrible. This one's pretty bad, and the other one was pretty bad too. They sound really rough, and you know, with it having had water in there, there's probably some rust buildup on there, and they're not going to get better. They're only going to get worse. So we're going to go ahead and throw some new bearings on it. Getting these out normally would be easy, but I decided not to replace the grease seals because the grease seals are fine. But when you don't replace the grease seal, the problem is now the grease seal is in the way of driving the bearing out. So to get the bearing out without ruining the grease seal, what I did for the case, just take one of these seal pullers, and you can tuck it right behind the bearing without getting behind the seal, and just hit it out, and it popped right out for the crankcase. Unfortunately, the crankcase cover was a little more stubborn. It would not come out that way. So this was the backup method. Basically just took an old lawnmower wheel bearing, welded it to the race of the bearing. You got to do that carefully so you don't ruin the seal, and then that will give you something that you can get a drift on from the other side and pound it out. So I have a new bearing here. I'll show you what that sounds like. Nice and quiet, so that's going to be a lot better. Now to get this in, I have my vise set up so that the case will rest on a couple bosses a couple mounting bosses there on the other side of the engine. I'll put that bearing in like there, just put it into place. Make sure I get this level. We want to drive it in straight. And then I'm going to use this socket. This is a 36 millimeter socket to fit the outer race, and you want to make sure the inside is clean, otherwise it's going to dump a bunch of crap all over your bearing, and just drive it in. Okay, and that's all the way in. I'll just do the same thing on the Craig case cover. Okay, and that's all in. So, we're about ready to reassemble the bottom end.